The American dream for most people is to attain accomplishment and prosperity using hard work and dedication. However, the dream for immigrants consists of just trying to survive the prejudice towards them. Oscar in Spare Parts was an example of a person who exhibited these characteristics and was deported by the United States back to Mexico. Many immigrants, like Oscar, come to America looking for a way to freedom or a way of making a living, but they discover that prejudice distinguishes mostly all hope. I have done some research on this topic and have found very credible sources with some very credible authors. Today you will learn about what causes prejudice against immigrants and the effects it has on the individual. So let's begin. Every day, many immigrants in the United States have to deal with prejudice acts against them, which can begin to have a negative effect on them. Prejudice is a widespread issue across the world. A study recorded by the National Bureau of Economic Research titled, "Are Emily and Greg More Employable Than Lakeisha and Jamal?" revealed that the white names were 50% more likely to be called back for an interview than resumes with black names. Housing is another widespread area that often discriminates against people against immigrants. According to a study in Chicago, people like immigrants are 2.5 times more likely to be led to a subprime loan, which means higher pricing with less security, than whites with the same qualifications. Prejudice not only hurts the individual during the situation, but it also hurts them even after they leave the situation. According to Michael Enzlicht, a professor of psychology who studied the effects of prejudice. People cope with the prejudice and begin to start living an unhealthy lifestyle, like making rational decisions and have too much unhealthy foods. They are also likely to become more aggressive and have a lack of self-control after being exposed to prejudice. If prejudice has such a negative effect on individuals, why do we feel the need to have prejudice against immigrants? The answer is it has to do with the way our brain thinks. The psychology behind the act of prejudice explains why we may act unfairly towards immigrants. Prejudice is a product of normal human thinking, says psychologist Gordon Allport. Our brains sort everything into categories, like age, gender, and race. Those categories then become the support for usual prejudgment. There is nothing to be done about our brains sorting these into categories. However, people can train themselves to be more empathetic and to others in different groups. Since our brains sort others into categories, we often develop viewpoints about others. These viewpoints can be either productive or destructive. Viewpoints include whether the immigrant is involved in crime, the economy, or whether or not they are trying to become a working part of society. We have learned about prejudice against immigrants, like the psychology behind prejudice that causes people to execute an act of prejudice, how people enact prejudicial behavior, and the effects on the immigrant individual. Prejudice against immigrants makes it nearly impossible for them to make a living and live healthy lives, with people always judging them just because they are immigrants and have a different color, or because they happen to be from another country other than the United States. Thank you.